Hey, this is Hayley Sales, and you're listening to the FSF PopCast.
The show that makes you realize that the bogus journey wasn't from Bill and Ted. It was from us.
Our show is brought to you by our charity sponsor, the Red Shirt Widows and Orphans Fund, which supports the Wish Upon a Teen Foundation that helps out sick kids when they need it most. And just imagine the comfort you'll give Red Shirt crewman number 131. She'll know that when she puts on the red shirt and joins Deadpool and Cable in their fight against crime, that she didn't leave her family destitute and without hope, because the Red Shirt Widows and Orphans Fund has her back, and what's left of her chimichanga.
All right, guys, our guest today is an accomplished and award-winning, I might point out, singer and songwriter that's also an actress who's done voice work in games like Homeworld, and there's some others on there as well. She has on-screen roles in as Cable's wife in Deadpool 2. That's kind of cool. Mm-hmm. And there's other films and TV shows and a whole lot of cool stuff. All you gotta do is go to her IMDb page. There's a whole lot on there. We'll find out how accurate that is later, though. But anyway, we are so glad. You never know. We are so glad and proud to welcome Hayley Sales to the FSF PopCast. Welcome to the show, Hayley.
Oh, thanks for having me. I'm already being quite entertained over here.
Excellent.
Mm-hmm.
Excellent.
I like it when we're actually entertaining and not just
yeah.
It's not
nice.
It's not
Friday afternoon.
She's just putting up with us. She wants out of here already.
We've had those.
What time is it?
Exactly. We got a thing to catch. So Hayley, one of the things we like to do first with any one of our guests, we always like to get to know the background of our guest. You know, we're nerds. We love origin stories. Origin stories are awesome. And so for us, it helps us get to know the person, you know, who they are, how they got to be the person that's sitting across the virtual table from us today.
Mm-hmm.
So in the origin story of the awesomeness that is Hayley Sales, what were your influences as little Hayley that encouraged you to grow up to seek out a career in the entertainment industry? We'll start as an actor. So with the acting.
Okay. Well, they all kind of combined, but once upon a time, there was this little girl who fell in love with musical theater, and that girl was me. And I was a little baby in diapers at this point, and I kind of stepped through a portal and tripped back into the 1940s and lost all track of what was cool and modern, and just lived through all the incredible movies, you know, everything from Singing in the Rain to Vertigo, you know, you name it, just that whole era from music to dance to film. And definitely was a misfit, I might add. I wore either vintage or my older brother's sweatpants to school every day because I just didn't, it didn't matter. I was living in a world where Gene Kelly was going to be my husband. Didn't turn out that way, but that's okay. And just that was my love. I was pursuing from a very young age theater. That, you know, that's why I was like, it kind of combines the music and acting at that point were combined into theater. And fast forward to middle school when I realized I wasn't quite fitting in, and I put all those loves of mine away and fell madly in love with Leonardo DiCaprio, and the rest is history. So I learned how to, you know, put on makeup and fit in at that point, which I've learned to undo as I'm growing older. But yeah, that's the synopsis of the origin story. And I lucked out, got signed to Universal Music when I was 16, and that was that. It was really easy, and then it got really hard later. You know, that's as all stories do, right? Yeah, exactly. The best stories have that.
Can't be all sunshine and rainbows.
Oh, exactly.
Okay. Well, cool. Yeah. I always think that's really cool though, when you're able to look at, you know, and know that, yeah, I'm different than everybody else, and that's okay. Mm-hmm. You know, and even if you hit a point where you decide, well, I want to be a little bit more, I don't want to be that different, but I'm okay with still being different. I think that's awesome. Because that's the way
it ebbs and flows throughout your life.
Yeah, absolutely. And
you realize normal doesn't exist.
Exactly. What's normal?
I've learned that later in life.
Yeah, because I've always felt that way about myself, you know, especially when I was younger, even more so now. My daughter, who's 16, is very much her own thing, and she'll come out of the room some days, you know, I'm just like, oh, so that's what we're wearing today. Okay, all right, yeah. Which is fine, you know. She dresses in a very 90s grunge era, So
Hey,
her and I get along just fine. But
There you go. Yeah.
yeah, so
Yeah.
she hangs out where dad hangs out, so that helps a little bit.
The
So
combat boots she had on the last time you guys were over were super cute.
Ooh.
they're
Yeah.
impressive.
I still have some of my Doc Martens. I
Oh, yeah.
didn't throw them away, and now they're all the way back again.
Yeah.
It's
Oh
great.
yeah. And the vintage
Like,
ones are probably worth
woohoo.
a few bucks. So
There you go. Yeah.
there,
I love
yeah.
the number of times that it comes back to musical theater. See, musical theater is
Yeah.
a good thing, Tim.
It is so important. I mean, I also was obsessed with Shakespeare. I was just a little romantic kid. I mean, I fell in love with a guy in kindergarten and decided that we were going to get married and that was going to be my life. And he didn't show up at my 5th birthday party. And I was so humiliated and so heartbroken. I had it all planned. I told everyone we're going to dance to the Lion King. Like, this is it. And he didn't show up. And instead of celebrating my 5th birthday, I hid in the closet and closed the door. So I was like this. I was so romantic. So in the 1940s have that in spades, and so did
Oh yeah.
musical theater. And I loved Shakespeare. Anything that was going to sweep me away. I was a strange little child. Let's just say
That's
that.
adorable.
I
Though.
love that. The strange
Yeah.
kids are the best. They're the most
Oh,
fun.
right. We turn out interesting.
Absolutely. You turn out to be fun. That's what
I'm
it
gonna
is.
go with the fact
There you
that the
go.
strange little kids are the best. While
I
I
agree,
remember that I
actually.
have a weird little 4-year-old who's currently, I think, still wearing her fuzzy rainbow unicorn bathrobe
That's
and no
cool.
shirt.
I didn't wear clothes till about 3, so at least she's wearing something.
She'd had clothes on and then she spilled something on herself and decided she wasn't gonna put a shirt back on, so she was just walking around in jeans and this fuzzy bathrobe. And I'm like, okay.
Whatever.
Cool.
She's comfortable.
I think we could all learn from our little selves and our, honestly, we get so caught up in this concept of wanting to either fit in or how life's supposed to unfold, or I need to be here by there at that time, and then you start realizing that you lost the magic somewhere along the way, and you have to go back. So
Yeah.
Having kids definitely makes you find that magic again.
I could imagine.
It really
Yeah.
does. And then you start seeing things through their eyes, which is really cool.
And then they
Yeah.
turn into teenagers and squash it right out of you.
Oh, I was going to say,
Rude.
me as a teenager was a scary sight to behold.
Teenagers in general are scary sights, but
Yeah.
Ooh, my bourbon intake has
Well.
gone up, but yeah,
You'll make it. You'll make it.
my liver might not, but I will. So
There you go.
but you have
Exactly.
3
Who
kids
needs
who
a
have liver
liver?
donors. You're fine.
ooh.
There you go.
One of those kids
right?
has to be a match for you.
Yeah, it's they owe
They
you.
did it to you. They should help fix the problem.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
And other things my mother's listening to right now. We already know I'm
Hi-
not a match.
hi,
for you,
Kathleen's
Mom. I'm
mom.
sorry. We already know I'm not a match. I'm sorry.
Oh no.
Oh. So my husband was a bit of a comic book fan when he was younger, and I say a bit of a comic book fan as a massive understatement. I think there are
Oh.
5 or 6 of the big printer paper boxes full of comic books still
Yeah.
that we haven't gone through
Nice.
the rest of. So obviously we've been big in the Marvel movies.
Yes.
And he showed me that in the comic books, Cable had a wife, Aaliyah, a son named Tyler, and they were both killed by Cable's evil clone in the future time before Cable came back to the present to help his parents, which is very twisty, but it works.
Yeah.
So without violating any Disney or Marvel NDAs, if given the chance to return to the MCU, either in the same role or a different one, would you be interested in expanding your character's role beyond just being Cable's wife?
Oh yeah. Are you kidding? That'd be so much fun. I mean, and it was the future, so things can change before you get there. So I don't know. Just saying. I think it was so much fun to be a part of that movie. That was, you never know, right? Like you go to, well, I actually really didn't know. So because of it was a very tight set, like they wouldn't release the script, which makes sense. Like people are trying to steal it and put it on the internet. So I show up having little to no idea who I am in the movie. And I got everything on the day there on set. And it was so fun. And Ryan Reynolds came out, like I didn't actually have scenes with him. He came down and introduced himself, and I had a small part. So that meant a lot to me. And it was so much fun. So yes, I would hands down go back to do that, or any other role really.
I would have
I mean, who
absolutely
doesn't love
died.
Marvel?
I would
Yeah,
have
I almost did.
melted if Ryan
I
Reynolds
did
talked to me.
literally
Oh.
in the scene.
He did literally. It's true.
But no,
So
it's true. And he was so sweet. He's like, oh, hey, you say hi to Blake. Like, he was just everything you'd hope him to be. He is. Like,
Oh
he's
my
just
gosh.
Oh, that's cool.
such a cool dude. Yeah,
That's
Oh,
cool.
man.
so cool. Yeah.
Totally jealous.
Excellent. Hey, so jumping back to your 1940s inspirations,
Yeah.
I've read that it's you've often cited musical artists like Judy Garland, and so some of these will be past the 1940s, but the Supremes, Ray Charles, the Beach Boys, as other and a few others as inspirations for your musical leanings. So my question for you is, how did those artists, because we're talking about varying genres of music here, and which is great. I think that's awesome that your footprint is so diverse. But how did those different genres influence your musical footprint? And are there any artists from today that are influencing you now, where you go, oh man, that's stimulating my musical muscles?
Musical muscles. I'd have to say the massive confluence was because my parents are eccentric, wonderful artist hippies from the 60s. So they were always playing the music you would expect them to play, and they had fantastic taste. So that, everything from the Supremes to Bob Dylan to everybody. Like
Nice.
the list could go on forever. And so I had that. And then I also had my own little bubble that I was in where I was listening to, everyone from John Coltrane to Judy Garland to Sarah Vaughan and all these vocalists from the 1940s and 50s. And I would have to say they kind of blended together because what really moved me was melody. And cut back to romance. And so there was this thread that kind of tied all of those artists together. And over the years, the songwriting and the vocals have kind of melded together into this one thing that is its own sound. I don't know if that makes sense, but
It really does.
yeah, like I was obsessed with George Gershwin and Artie Shaw and all these incredible arrangers and composers of that era. And so in some ways my songs are a combination of that. And then you have the pop R&B that you might get from the Supremes or Ray Charles. And they kind of have done this. So it'd be hard to pick them apart and tell you what's what. And gosh, as far as modern music, there are so I'm literally right now trying to think of this guy's first name because I just love him so much. And Steven Sanchez is amazing. That's what it is. I hope I just said his name right. He's fantastic. Really love what he's doing. The list goes on. I mean, I loved Lana Del Rey when she came out. It was so inspiring to see someone that leaned into older music, but did it. I mean, we're very different, but she really took it and ran with it and created a whole world around her. So I love that she did that.
Especially for like the Great Gatsby soundtrack.
That song is just
I know. Love it.
I listened to that song. I have a really I made fun of all the time for this. I will become so obsessed with one song that I will listen to it on repeat, just the one song for weeks. Like I'll go on my runs listening to it, and I don't know if it builds a story in my head, but I've had a tendency to do that my whole life, and that song was one of them.
See, I
love
get
that one.
I get that because I do
you
that
do?
too.
Oh, good. That makes me
totally
feel
do
less
it too.
odd.
My husband hates it because he is the
Yeah, mine
buys
does
a new
too.
album, buys a new album and listens to the whole album all the way through. And I'm like, no, I got it for the one song. I'm going to listen to that one song until I hate that song, and then I'll come back to it in 6 months.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, I think too, a lot of the times doing that, I'll listen to it. I'll realize that I enjoy it. And then as I listen to it more, I find the different aspects of it that I enjoy. So
yeah, totally.
Suddenly you have it on a different speaker and you hear the bass line that you didn't hear before. And you're like, wait a second.
It really helps you digest a song. And I mean, I find that it's like I absorb it, like literally. So last week, my most recent one is I'd never heard this song before, and it popped up on Alexa at one of my friends' houses, and it was isn't this a lovely day, Ella Fitzgerald. And something about it, I cannot get that song out of my head. I'm just like singing it all the time, listening on repeat, and I'm sure someday I'll like write a song similar, just because it's like it's so much a part of me now. I've
Right.
listened to it so many times, I love it.
I almost wonder if that's a thing about musical theater kids, because you have to know those songs forward and back.
Yeah,
You get them hammered into your head during rehearsals. And I feel
better
like
or worse.
we still do that to ourselves later in life, where we're like, no, we're gonna keep listening to it.
I'm gonna learn this
until we hear
well.
all the parts.
Yeah.
And find all the different cues in it.
Yeah.
I just do that because I think the song is awesome, and it gets stuck in my head, and then it becomes an earworm. And I'll wake up singing, I'll wake up from in the morning with a song stuck in my head, and there's always a random song. I call it Radiohead, and I'll wake up with that.
Radiohead?
It's every once in a while it actually is Radiohead.
Sometimes there you go. Well, I love them. They're amazing. They're one of my favorite bands.
I had one that I either love cover songs, or I hate cover songs, or I love to hate the cover song.
I would agree.
But I found this band the other day, and they're called Scary Pockets, and they're a funk cover band. Ooh. And I fell down like this funk rabbit hole on YouTube with all of their stuff, because I found their stuff on TikTok, and then I kept listening to the one song over and over and over again, because they did a funk cover of Childish Gambino's Redbone.
Oh,
and it was
really
amazing.
I want to check this out.
And then because I per previously stated rabbit hole, then I found they had a cover of Hanson's Bop as funk.
No way.
And I'm like,
oh my
and I was like, all right, now we're having some fun. But
amazing.
My daughter is completely annoyed with me, because I was listening to it on my phone, and then I went to my computer, and then I put it over my stereo and the Bluetooth speakers, so I could hear everything louder in the house. And she's like, I'm really, trying to have a FaceTime with my friends. Can you turn that down? I'm like, tell them to get the funk out here. So,
the girl who's been on 10-hour FaceTimes, she can deal with it.
Yeah, that's what I said.
So the creative process is different for every artist, and it can change depending on if you're working alone, if you're working with other people, and sometimes even depends on who you're working with. So with your music, Hayley, how do you personally create? And does that change when you're working with someone else? Like, for instance, when you worked on Never Before with Sharon Stone.
Yeah, well, actually, I had never done a co-write before Sharon Stone. Ooh. So I'll explain my process before getting to write with her. But I've always been I say I can't write a song. Like, I just have to show up, and sometimes the muses write a song through me, because if I try, it's just terrible. It just sounds like you're trying. And so to me, it's something that's very fluid, and it'll be at 2 a.m. and I'm like, oh, my earbud will fall out, and I'll run to my piano, which is right there next to my bed, and I'll literally just start to write in the middle of the night. But it's something I've never been able to plan. You just show up, and it'll become infectious, kind of like listening to the song. Mm-hmm. I become obsessed. Sometimes you write a song and you do it in one sitting, and sometimes you do most of it, and there's that one thing that's not right, and it will haunt me until I figure it out. Like, it'll keep me up for months. So when I was given the opportunity to write with Sharon, I was pretty nervous. One, because it's Sharon Stone, but two, because I'd never done a co-write, and I was like, I might show up and silence, like there's just nothing comes up. And it actually turned out to not be that case, and she was amazing. Like, she's a powerhouse. I had just lost my record to Universal, like my third record, and I was rock bottom, graveling with why to do music anymore. I was just very jaded about the whole thing and lost at sea. And I remember her sitting me down and being like, okay, but what haven't you done yet that's truest to yourself? I'm like, well, I loved 40s music. Like, that is what those are the songs I've locked away in closets. Mm-hmm. That, I have so many of those. She's like, well, why aren't you doing that? You be you. Like, she's like, take off all that makeup and just be yourself. She's like a woman power. I just love her. Mm-hmm. And so we sat down, and with the mission of writing a song about love that felt like it was from a different time. And I don't know how it happened, but it was seamless. Like, she was so inspiring, and we did it all in one afternoon, and love her. I mean, still to this day, I haven't done many co-writes, and that one it just was a very special experience. And proved to me I could do it.
I can't imagine co-writing a song with Sharon Stone. That's
Yeah, I mean, I still can't when I think about it
right.
as like outside of myself, but the experience was incredible. So as far as producing, because I produce my own music as well. That's when I really love to collaborate. Like I thrive off working with a string arranger and getting into it with them and letting each instrumentalist really do what they do and bring themselves to the table. I just think that's so fun. I love that. I'm not like, I do this and this and this. Whereas with songwriting, I'm a little more structured that way.
You will play the note this way.
That's not how the bridge goes. Yeah.
All right, so Hayley, one of the things we didn't mention in the introduction is that you also have directed a few movie shorts. So that's another little title we can throw into the IMDb credits. And IMDb currently is crediting you with 3: All This Love, All Shook Up, and It Can't Be Christmas Without You. So, what do you enjoy most about directing films, and how does this scratch that artistic creative itch differently than acting or singing?
You know what I love about directing, and I mean they were kind of woven into my songs, so they were all mixed in the same
there's that
thing. But but having said that, what I'm so obsessed with films. Like I am there. I've lived through the stories films have told me. So to be able to bring a story or even just a feeling to life through the medium of film is so fun because it's so visual. Whereas I find music is it's emotive and it's clearly it's just for me it's just my heart being blah out there when I'm doing music. Acting is trying to get out of your own way and forget yourself so that you can tell someone else's story. And getting to direct is kind of this fun hybrid where you're capturing a story and a person or an essence on screen. And I love it. Someday I would love to dive more into it, but I'm terrified. I'll get there in like 20 years. For now, I'll just do my shorts.
There you go. Well, we've actually had the opportunity to interview a couple different directors who started out as a shorts director. Matter of fact,
That's cool.
last week's guest on the show, his name is Brett Smith. He's an independent film creator who started off with doing a bunch of different shorts, and he just had a major motion picture release.
That's awesome.
And yeah, it was a pet project of his that he's had for 8 years. It started as a short, and now it's a feature film, and it's went out to select theaters. It's won a whole bunch of different awards and things like that. So I think that that's a possibility for somebody, as long as it's something that you're driven towards. I think that it doesn't have to be just shorts, unless shorts are what you enjoy doing there, and there's nothing wrong with those, because there's some really cool short films out in the world that really
there are
you can tell a lot of story in 10 minutes or less.
It is actually, they're kind of like songs in that way. It's very condensed. I think it'd be so fun. I started writing a screenplay for a musical, kind of, that's just sitting on the back burner. Someday when I have a team. Whereas when I'm doing these, I'm editing them, I'm directing them. It's a lot of work, but it's so fun. I mean, I got to do the video for the Sharon Stone song as well, and it's just, I don't know, there's something about it that I just love. It's like every edit's an eye blink, and it's just there's so much to play with.
Very cool.
So someday.
Yeah. So going from editing and directing to acting, in 2022, you appeared in a movie titled Corrective Measures, where I read that you performed opposite of Bruce Willis, which is also amazing. And
yes.
Oh my goodness. And
it breaks my heart though.
I know. But also from what I've read, he did all of his scenes in 2 days.
Yeah, he did all of them very condensed. But I've actually met so many actors that do that. I mean, it's actually funny when you, like, we just filmed a movie in 2.5 weeks. Oh, like we just finished Friday. So if you think about that, 2 full days is actually a lot of content. But yeah, I have to say, my heart broke when I heard the news,
Oh
because
yeah, for
he to
sure.
me was, I mean, I felt like one of his daughters. Like, he treated me so amazingly. It made me feel so at ease. And on top of that, just getting to act with him. I mean, I've met and gotten to act with a lot of amazing actors, but he is so present that
Mhm.
when it was like, I'd never needed an acting class. Like, he was worth 20 years of acting
Oh,
lessons,
that's
because
so amazing.
he's just he's so focused on you when he's acting that suddenly you're so focused on him. And I think that's the key to losing yourself into a story, is not critiquing, oh, should I look right now? Should I look left? Am I looking like an idiot? You know, all those things that
Right.
kind of pull you out. And he was just brilliant. And I feel so lucky to have gotten to work with him, especially now knowing, that he didn't get to do much more. Like, he was a genius. I mean, he's a legend.
He
Yeah,
is.
they were long days. I was there for both of them. They were very long days. I did all my stuff in 4 days total, actually. Yeah,
So how did you prepare for that role of Dr. Isabel Josephs? I
that
mean,
was fun, actually, because
it sounds like it would have been.
my brother's a spinal surgeon, and for some reason, so many of my best friends are nurses, and I know absolutely nothing about being a doctor or nurse at all. Like, I'm like, oh, where do you take the pulse? That was how bad it was. And I really wanted to, you know, look like I knew what I was doing. And
Mhm.
so I actually got to learn so much about how to do a physical, how you do a neuro examination, like all these little things. And so on a technical side, that was really fun.
That would
And
be
on the story creative side, I really dove in and created this whole backstory for myself as to why I'd be best friends with these supervillains, and found ways to really make them lovable and my friends. And the director, Sean, was incredible. He let us improvise. Like, we do this, we do every scene the way he wrote it, envisioned it. And then he's like, okay, what do you guys want to do? It was so magical. I mean, it was really fun.
That's so
I
cool.
loved that movie. Yeah.
That's so cool. I love it. I mean, just thinking about trying to prepare for pretending to be a doctor. Your
Yeah.
brother's a spinal surgeon?
Yeah. My brothers are all, you know, I get to play all the cool things they actually are. Like, yeah, he's one of the top 10 spinal surgeons in America.
Wow.
Very smart. He's also the guy who, put me on the zip line and smashed me into a tree. Love him so much. And
Well,
then
probably
my other
after that, he was
brothers.
like, "Well, I'm gonna have to learn how to fix that."
Well, yeah, I know. And then my other brother is a sustainable city planner and like runs the
Wow.
town. And I'm like, I get to act and sing.
I get to smile and wave, boys. Smile and wave.
And people put makeup on me. Yeah. No, it's
Ah,
there. Yeah, it was actually really helpful though that he had all that knowledge, because otherwise I would have shown up and been like, hi, where does this needle, how does this, yeah. So I never like to show up without doing my homework. I'm very, I like to know what I'm going to do.
As soon as you said I needed to know where the pulse was, all I could imagine was you walking up to somebody with the stethoscope and like sticking it to their forehead, going, "I don't hear
Right?
anything."
They're like, I can't get the pulse. Yeah. Well, I learned a lot. Now I could take your pulse.
Oh, there you
There
go.
you go.
Fantastic.
I could even get it in your foot. So,
Ooh.
learned a whole bunch.
fetal pulses are not easy to find.
Mm-mm. Well, I say I can do it. I can at least do it for film. I hope you're not like on the floor dying and I need to get your pulse.
If you
But this is
if somebody's on the floor dying though, if you're trying to get a
that's
pulse
true.
in their foot,
You got a problem. But actually, what's pretty funny, I'm very Meisner and method. Like, I whether it's healthy or not, really go into my characters. And flying down to Atlanta to film, I was studying everything, really in doctor mode. And then there was an emergency on the airplane. They're like, is the doctor in the airplane? And I literally did this and then sat back. I'm like, oh my God, what are you about to do? So
love
My name
that.
is Dr. Isabel Joseph. How can I help you?
I'm from Protective Measures. Yeah, I didn't do that. But I was close.
That's funny.
Mhm.
Uh, All right. So one of the other things I noticed in doing some research about you, Hayley, is that you've done work with a variety of charities over the years, whether it's work that you did personally, or you donated music, or there was a lot of ways that you're connected to a variety of charities that were noted. But the one that stood out to me was a group called Musicians on Call, a group that brings music
Oh
to kids
yeah.
in the hospital. And the reason why that stands out to me is back in 2019, my daughter spent 97 days in the hospital, a very large portion of that in the ICU.
Oh.
And we loved it when the volunteers, they had a similar music group here in Michigan where they would come in and there was music therapy, but there was also volunteers that would come in and they would play the guitar and they would sing and they would perform songs. And one of the ladies came in with a violin and she played the violin and sang, and it was just really cool. uh, we found it to be a tremendous stress relief in the middle of all the craziness that was going on with my daughter's health at the time. So how did you get involved with that group, and what does it mean personally to you to donate your time and efforts to charities such as Musicians on Call?
Well, I hearing your story resonates. My brother actually had a brain tumor when he was 18, and he was in intensive care for about 4 months and multiple operations. They didn't think he'd make it every single time he went under. And being 10 at that time, I spent a lot of time in there singing for him or reading him stories or rubbing his feet. Didn't love that part, but you know, I got to see how much it alleviated his pain to be around art and to, you know, be told stories or be entertained. And he made it, and he's totally fine and has two beautiful daughters that are teenagers now, and it's a great success story. But I just felt really drawn towards doing what I do, which is music, and being able to brighten someone's day. And it was both heartbreaking. I mean, to go into those rooms is definitely like I would be crying a lot of the times, but the joy that you would see in their eyes is worth every second of it. And really cool organization. It's really taken off actually since, because this was a while ago that I started getting involved with it. It's really, I think art and music is just, I mean, there is no substitute. It is, I mean, it's kept me alive in so many ways. And uh, it's hard to see it getting pulled from schooling because it's just so important to children.
Agreed.
So yeah, I loved being involved with that. And it's one of the ways that, you know, you sit here and you do all this, you know, you make songs and you put songs on the radio or you go and act and all these things. And sometimes it feels as though you want to give that gift just to give it. And I felt like that was a charity where I really just got to do something for someone else with no strings attached on my end.
I love that. And like I said, it reminded me very much of our experience and the things that we went
Mm-hmm.
through. And my daughter was having my daughter has a condition called Guillain-Barré syndrome, and it affects the central nervous system. And she was paralyzed from
Okay.
the neck down for a while. Had to have breathing tubes, a feeding tube, some other things for a while. And
Mm-hmm.
my daughter and me being a completely biased parent, uh, has a wonderful singing voice. And excuse me, while she was in the hospital, she couldn't sing for a while.
Oh.
And so, so these music volunteers would come in, and the music therapy would come into her room, and they would just play music for her, and she would kind of whisper the songs, and kind of, because all she could do for a while there was just kind of bob her head back and forth. She could move her head a little bit, and she
Yeah.
could, I still remember the day when she was able to start singing again. Anyway, that was a good day. Anyway,
Yeah.
the charities that do these type of things are just it's such a beautiful thing to be able to take that stress away from families and just be able to take that
Yeah,
stress away from the person to give them something else to concentrate on uh,
exactly.
in the middle of
Yeah.
all this whirlwind of stuff that's going around them, and everything they're having to deal with,
Mhm.
because they're making major medical decisions every couple minutes while they're in these
Right.
places and in
Like
these
life or
spaces.
death. It's yeah, it's
Yeah, absolutely. So um just as the person who's been, and I know that your family's been on the other side of it as well, but as a person that's
mhm.
been on the other side of it, thank you for making your time to go do something like that.
Oh,
So
well, I love doing it. But yeah, I think art just is so powerful. And it does break my heart a little bit that we are so swept away and enamored with our affair with technology. Because I think there's an incredible place for technology as well. But art
oh yeah.
just takes you away. Like it's so human, and it transports you into a story or into a melody. And yeah, I clearly am a fan. I mean, I'm like kind of obsessed with
That's
art.
music
okay.
music specifically,
Yeah,
they've done studies to show how music will influence the brain, especially they've done studies with Alzheimer's and dementia patients, and
Yeah.
music that they would have known when they were younger, and watching these parts of the brain that they thought were dead from the Alzheimer's light
isn't
back
that
up.
amazing? Yeah, and
It's
how they can
so
remember how to
spectacular.
play a song on piano but not
Yes.
remember their name.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's powerful stuff.
It is music
Yeah,
is so incredibly important, and like you
yeah.
said, I like you said that it's heartbreaking to see it being pulled out of schools, and
Hmm.
for the next thing to be, well, what standardized tests can our kids do, and what next new technology do they need to learn? It's like, no, they need to work with their
Like
hands.
they need to play the flute. Like
Yes.
the clear.
Send
No, like on even if you don't, I truly feel like, of course, most people will not wind up with art as a career. I understand that. It doesn't matter. It's not to me. That's not why you're doing it at a young
right.
age. Like dance or theater or playing an instrument are just tools that wind up making you so much more prepared for life
And
Oh,
and
agreed. Yeah.
whatever career you have
yeah, and
and self-expression in general.
they put so much emphasis on sports, and that not
Mhm.
everybody's going to be an athlete, not everybody's going to be an Olympian,
No,
but
no.
why
At
are
the same
those so much more
token,
And it's
important?
kind of the same rate, right? Like
Yeah.
just as many people won't be athletes as artists, but somehow sports is they'd never
Hmm.
cut sports.
right.
Like which,
You know,
you know,
I didn't get, obviously I'm not a famous athlete. I'm neither a famous musician either, even though I did rock a recorder with hot cross buns.
yeah, you
You know,
did.
Right?
That's awesome.
Send
Good for
these second
you.
graders home with recorders. Come
I
on.
remember
boom.
that.
I need the
I
next
still have
generation of
mine. It's on
parents
the
to be
shelf behind
traumatized
me.
like I have been. So,
Oh
Like,
no.
no, I still have the one that I got in second grade.
Really?
It is literally on that bookshelf behind me. Like,
Oh, that's awesome.
my daughter is just eager to get to learn to play it. And it's like,
That's so
we will
cool.
get there. We will get there. You're four. I
You
also have
just wait a
a
sec.
I also have a 100-year-old saxophone that I've been teaching myself how to play. Like,
That's cool.
it is so cool. I love it.
That is really cool.
It's an amazing, amazing instrument. And it's a C melody saxophone, which were
Mm.
super popular for like 10 minutes. And then the economy busted and people weren't able to have as much. And
Yeah.
it breaks my heart because it's such a cool instrument. But it was to be played along with piano music instead of being played in a big band. So
Yeah.
you don't have to transpose the keys. You can just,
That's pretty cool.
it's so much
That's such a rare instrument you got there.
it's so cool. And yet saxophone players hate it.
Hmm.
and all I'm sitting here thinking is I can't wait for you to play yakety sax. So,
Oh, it's gonna happen.
just saying.
It's gonna happen.
Please do. That would be great.
Currently it's I'm trying to figure out how to get sharps and flats to work. I've gotten the C scale
Hmm.
down. But now it's
Nice.
how do you finger sharps and flats? This
Oh,
is weird.
I am so impressed with anyone that can play that type of an instrument. Like I can do the piano, I can do the guitar, anything where I'm using my fingers like this.
Uh-huh.
When you start doing all that other stuff, I'm so impressed.
Yeah, and
It's a
I
whole
mean,
skill.
I was in choir from third grade through my senior year of high school. I took piano lessons. I didn't join band like my siblings did. So my older brother and my sister both played clarinet, and my other brother played trombone. I didn't do instruments until I was in my 20s, when my mom's like, hey, we need more percussionists in this adult wind band that I'm in. And I'm like, well, I can
That's
play
awesome.
percussion. That's not.
It's never too late. It's so
And
true.
then was gifted the saxophone that now I'm teaching myself to play, and it's
There you go.
a blast.
Cool.
So everything that you've
awesome.
done in your career so far, Hayley, with everything, directing, acting, music, charity work, all of it, what is the piece of advice that you would go back and give yourself when you first started, or give to somebody else who's starting out in the entertainment industry?
Oof. Well, I would preface it with, don't be afraid of the no's and the door slamming in your face. And it only takes one yes. And I know so that's more of a theory for proceeding forward. But what if I could go back and tell my, 10-year-old, 11-year-old self something, it would be, don't become something because you believe you should be it. Be yourself and everyone will come to you. So like, if you build it, they will come. Like, I wish that I had the courage at a young age to do the 1940s music I'm finally doing. Like, this record is the first time I'm doing it. And it took me losing an album, losing everything, like my life just going up into flames to have the courage to do it. So if I could go back, I would say, dig in, fall in love with the art, spend as much time as you can developing your own voice. And when someone comes and asks you to change it, listen to their advice, sit with it, see if it resonates, and let it go if it doesn't, because most of it won't. And I was so impressionable and so insecure, and I was a chameleon. So I became, Universal Canada wanted a surfer. I became that. I let people mold me, which I think sometimes happens when you're able to do a lot of things. But I wish I had just stayed true to the one thing that I knew, if I didn't do this, I would regret it the rest of my life. And so I'm finally getting there. But if I could save the heartbreak for someone else, I would strongly suggest that.
Fair enough. Good advice.
Yeah. And reach back. Like, I see, with TikTok and everything, it's so easy to be saturated with what's literally now, instant. This is what's cool. This is what's hip. Don't care what's cool or hip. There is no such thing until you make it cool. It's reach back further. Go back to the 1940s music. Go back to the 1960s. There's such a wealth of incredible inspiration that is not necessarily something you're going to just discover from flipping through your phone.
Very good. Very much agreed as well.
That.
Yeah.
Very much.
So that was a very roundabout way to say quite a few things.
Hey, it makes sense.
That's okay. We like roundabout. That's good.
There you go. We're meandering through the advice.
Absolutely. All right, Hayley, one final question for you. We call it our silly question. You can answer this as serious or as silly as you see fit.
Okay.
Of all the animals in the world, which animal is the biggest party animal?
A dolphin. Because they're so playful and social. And when I go surfing, they just want to come up and hang out, and they're just incredibly, they love singing to you. They're just playful little individuals. So I don't know if that's a party animal. Maybe a dog, dolphin. What did you guys say?
I feel like dogs and dolphins are both solid party animals. I mean, a dog is going to be the best wingman you've ever had.
That's definitely true. A dolphin might be a bit rubbery in the water, but if you're in the water, they're the best wingman you could have. They'll protect you from sharks. So that's cool.
But I also feel like a dolphin would be like game for anything. And they'd be like, hey, I know about this cool party going on in the reef down there.
Let's do it.
They would just drag you there. Like,
yeah, exactly. Literally.
But at the same time, a dog would be like, oh yeah, sure, whatever. What are we gonna do? Where are we gonna go? It's gonna be fun.
But you could go down many rabbit holes with that. I could see so many different animals becoming party animals in different situations.
I was thinking raccoon, because they've already got the costume.
They do have the makeup. They're ready
Yeah.
for their smoky eye date
I was
night.
gonna
That's
say, they're
right.
ready for a
Night
night
out.
on the town. Yeah.
Right? Yeah,
Absolutely.
exactly. I like that.
All good. All are solid answers.
Oh,
Okay, good.
yeah. No, I agree with the dolphins though. Like, they are
I also just
incredibly
love them.
playful. They're
Yeah.
so sweet. They're so
I
cool.
just love them. They're so fun. I saw a dolphin giving birth in Florida once.
Oh
I was
my-
out I was out surfing and it was just like I just started crying. Like, that's so beautiful.
That's so cool. That is
Yeah.
so cool.
They're just cool animals.
They are, and they're so smart.
They're
They are
really smart.
so smart.
Incredibly.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, Hayley, thank you so much for being on the show with us today.
Oh, thank
Where
you.
can our viewers and our listeners go to find out more about you and your work?
Well, most of the usual suspects, if you look at Hayley Sales, I'll pop up. Facebook, Hayley Sales Official, but you're going to find me if you look up my name. And do keep an eye out because later this year, the record I was mentioning, Till the End, will be coming out finally after many years of not being allowed to release music. So I'm incredibly excited for that. And something new comes out as well. So that's a movie that'll be, I don't know which network, but keep an eye on it. It'll be June. You'll see it on IMDb.
There you go.
Awesome.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, we will, of course, tell our viewers and our listeners, guys, you know the drill by now. When in doubt, Google it.
Right?
Google is free.
You will see more than you want of me if you Google. Like, oh,
There you
there's a lot
go.
of Hayley. Yes.
Oh,
All right, very cool. All right, guys, we want to remind you that subscribing is the single most important thing you can do to help us to continue to grow and get amazing guests like Hayley Sales here today to have these wonderful conversations and to find out which animals are the party animals. So please subscribe. It helps us more than we can really ever tell you. And be sure to check out Hayley's work as well. And I, for one, am really excited about your upcoming album because that sounds like such a heart and passion project. I'm just positive that that's going to be a lot of fun to listen to. And but however, guys, if you aren't content with the happy of our content today, then please feel free to lodge a complaint with the head of our complaint department. That, of course, is the iconic mutant time traveler known as Cable. Known for his ability to move things with his mind, that means that those of you who submit your complaints are also never really safe from him. So send in 2 copies of your complaint form, because just in case he misplaces one when he's time traveling, he gets cranky, and we don't need to upset him any further. Plus, we're the ones that we're really going to have to worry about it. But keep that in mind, because if he decides that your complaint is without merit, he could be coming for you. So, ha ha ha. How's that feel? I mean, sorry about that. And don't become a puddle like his wife.
Thanks again, Hayley.
Thanks,
Thank
Hayley.
you
We really
guys so
appreciate you
much.
coming on.
On that
Thank
happy,
you
cheery
for the
note.
conversation. I know, very appreciative. Happy
Oh,
Thanksgiving.
goodness.
What
All
are
right,
we
guys,
doing
that's
for
going to
the
conclude us for the
10,000?
FSF PopCast. Goodbye.
Bye, guys. Thank you.
On behalf of the rest of the hosts of the FSF PopCast, we want to thank you for listening to this episode. If you'd like to be a guest on a future episode, please contact us by means of Twitter or Instagram using the handle @FSF PopCast, or go to www.fsfpopcast.com and click on the Contact Me link. Thanks again, and hope you enjoyed the episode.
Copyright 2023 FSF PopCast.
Reference to any specific product or entity mentioned on this podcast does not constitute an endorsement or recommendation by FSF PopCast. The views expressed by the guests are their own, and their appearance on the program does not imply an endorsement of them or any entity they represent. If you have any questions about this disclaimer, please contact us via email at info@fsfpopcast.com. Original music by Jordan Michaels.